Free-to-play games used to have a reputation, low-quality games, pay to win, and just not worth your time. But that's not necessarily the case anymore. Right now, there are free PC games that are genuinely feels like full $60, $70 releases, and in some cases, they're actually better. In this video, I have picked 10 of the best free games that don't just compete with paid titles, they straight up outclass them in gameplay, content, and overall value. We're talking about games with insane graphics, massive content, smooth gameplay, and most importantly, no pay-to-win nonsense. So, let's get straight into it. Alright, starting at number 10, we got the perfect game for today's video, and that is Goose Goose Duck. This one is of course basically like Among Us, but way more chaotic and honestly way more fun right now. It got the same style of social deduction gameplay loop. You're running around, doing tasks and try to figure out who is the imposter. But Goose Goose Duck just take it to the another level with way more roles, voice chat, proximity chat, and just pure randomness. Feature-wise, this game is stacked compared to its paid counterparts. There are tons of unique roles, maps, goofy mechanics, game modes, plus it is way more social and fun because of its built-in voice chat, so you don't need Discord or anything. Everything just happens naturally in the game. It is a super popular game on Steam, very casual, easy to jump in, perfect game for a party night, and still got a pretty active community on Steam. So if you're someone who like this style of social deduction game and don't want to spend that $2-3 price tag to buy Among Us, this game is absolutely one of the best alternatives and is completely free to play with no pay to win elements. Alright, talking about some awesome games that going head to head against their paid counterparts, next up we got UFL. This one is a brand new free-to-play soccer simulation style of a game and try to compete with some of the biggest, most popular soccer games on the market like FIFA, EAFC, and even Konami's free-to-play eFootball. It is a football simulation at its core. You can build your own team, online matches, climb divisions, but the main thing they're pushing is the fairness, which is something those paid football games seriously struggle with. The game is still pretty new, still evolving, and I recently jumped into the PC version of the game and visually looks amazing, great gameplay, animation, but it might not feel as polished as a big AAA title yet, but it's getting there and the core gameplay is solid enough to keep you hooked, especially if you're into competitive online matches. The game is centered around building your own club and competing online, similar to the very popular Ultimate Team, but the biggest difference is that it's designed to avoid pay-to-win mechanics. That's literally one of the main selling points of this game. Popularity-wise, it is pretty underrated in my opinion, but still growing. It's not in a level of FIFA or anything like that, but it's great to see the developers are pushing that fair-to-play model, meaning you are not supposed to get any gameplay advantages just by spending money on the game. So like I said, if you're into soccer games, if you're someone who buys the latest FIFA game every single year for $70, why not download and try out UFL for absolutely free? Next up, we got Brawlhalla, basically the free-to-play version of something like Smash Bros. It is a very popular game on PC, mobile, or even consoles, and also has a massive esports scene. It is a platform fighter, so you're knocking opponents off the map instead of draining their health bar. It is super easy to pick up, but surprisingly deep once you get into. Gameplay-wise, it is pretty fast-paced, smooth, and skill-based, and each character has a different set of weapons and playstyles, but the core gameplay mechanics is pretty consistent throughout the game, so it's more about how good you are rather than just who you pick. You got 1v1s, 2v2s, rank mode, casual mode, got everything you expect from a competitive fighter game, and for a free-to-play title, the game is absolutely stacked. Got tons of characters, frequent updates, crossover skins, events, and the best part is you can unlock every character just by playing the game, so you don't feel locked out of content. And of course, compared to its paid counterparts like Super Smash Bros. Yeah, Smash Bros might have a bigger characters and a bit of nostalgia, but Brawlhalla wins in accessibility and value. It's completely free and available on pretty much all platforms. At number 7, we got the free-to-play tactical military shooter Delta Force. And when talking about Delta Force, this is where the Battlefield comparison comes immediately. And you got big maps, vehicles, squads, full-on chaotic warfare. But the crazy part is, you don't have to pay anything to jump in. And I'm someone personally put so much hours into both of these games. I put about 150 hours into Delta Force and more than 250 hours into the new Battlefield 6. So gameplay-wise, Delta Force leans heavily into that classic Battlefield formula. We are talking large team battles, combined armed combat with helicopters, tanks, choppers, and the objectives spread across massive maps. The gunplay is obviously very smooth, very solid. The animation is actually a bit of a mix between a tactical shooter and a fast-paced shooter like Call of Duty. Plus it got multiple game modes. There's a completely different 3-player operation mode, which is basically an extraction shooter, and even a full-on single-player campaign that you can jump in with a couple of your friends, and it's incredibly satisfying to complete. And they're all completely free. The whole package, the multiplayer, operation, single-player, everything is completely free, which is a huge bonus compared to a paid title like Battlefield. The monetization is also pretty reasonable for a free-to-play title. It is not pay to win by any means. Everything here is purely cosmetics, but it can be a bit overwhelming sometimes. But if you can get past that, it is one of the best free-to-play tactical shooters out there right now. Alright, moving on to one of the biggest games to come out last year, and that is none other than Where Winds Meet. And this is one of those games that honestly doesn't even look like it should be free. It's a massive open world action RPG set in the ancient China with heavy wuxia style combat, martial art techniques, sword fighting, stealth, and even some supernatural abilities mixed in. The game kind of blew up in popularity at launch, and ever since that it's getting continuous updates, new expansions, and keep getting better and better, which is great to see. Gameplay wise, it's a very exploration driven. You got a massive open world to explore, dynamic combat with different fighting styles, and a lot of freedom to play the game however you want. Combat is incredible in this game. The movement, the abilities, it's kind of like Black Myth Wukong, and the open world is packed with so much stuff to do. The main quest, side quests, skill system, NPC interactions, mini games, and honestly kind of look like a game that you normally expect you to pay. Monetization is also pretty fair. Everything here is pretty much cosmetics and XP boosters, nothing really game breaking. And I would say, man, this game is much better than something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. At least to me, I put close to like 80 hours into that game. I didn't really enjoy the open world activities other than the main story. All in all, a great single play game, probably one of the best single play experiences you can have right now for free. Arena Breakout Infinite is basically the free-to-play answer to a game like Escape from Tarkov, and honestly it's kind of insane how close it gets to that experience without costing you anything. Gameplay wise, you guys know it's a super hardcore extraction shooter. You drop into a map, loot everything you can, fight off other players, and try to get out there alive. And if you die, you're gonna lose everything that you brought in, so every match is super intense and every decision matter. The game has got pretty top tier gunplay, it's super realistic, time to kill is very low, and it really rewards the smart play over just run and gun. And ever since the game come out of early access and launch on Steam, it received tons of positive feedback from the community. The early access pay to win monetization was completely gone, and recently dropped a massive update with a new season, so the popularity is still growing, and especially among the players who want a Tarkov-like experience without the barrier to entry. There is obviously a lot of interest around an extraction shooter like this, because not everyone wants to drop money on a hardcore shooter like Tarkov just to see how it feels. Monetization is surprisingly fair for this type of game. There are paid elements like secure containers and convenient features, but nothing that straight up make you win gunfights, so the skills still matter way more than spending money on the game. All in all, not a bad time to jump in and enjoy one of the coolest extraction shooters available right now for free. Alright, moving on at number 4, we got Warframe, and it is one of those games that have been around for years, but somehow it just keeps getting better and better with each and every update. It is a fast-paced sci-fi looter shooter where you play as these space ninjas called Warframes, each with their own abilities and playstyles. Gameplay-wise, man, it's insanely smooth and satisfying. You are sliding, bullet jumping, wall running, slicing through enemies. It is mission-based but also has open-world areas, story quests, co-op play, an insane amount of content and variety, and it can be a bit overwhelming at first, especially if you're jumping as a beginner for the very first time, but obviously in a good way. An amount of content here is something you would normally expect from a full price AAA title, and the game is still going very strong, more than 10 years on the market, so you know the game is pretty good. And monetization, of course, one of the fairest out there. You can technically buy things with real money, but almost everything can be earned through the game. No pay to win, just pay to skip if you want to save time. And compared to some of the other looter shooters on the market, the games like Destiny 2, which is technically free to play, but the free to play experience is much more limited. It has a lot of content behind expansions and DLCs, but Warframe gives you massive amount of content completely free. So download, try it out, it's one of the best out there. Rocket League is one of those games where the idea sounds very simple, basically cars playing football, but once you actually played it, you realize there's nothing else like it, whether it's paid or free. It's super easy to understand, but insanely harder to master, which is why the game has a massive esports scene and people coming back after all those years. This game is all about skill. You're boosting around, flying through air, hitting insane aerial shots, saves, passes. It gets really competitive the higher you go. Features wise, this game got everything you expect from a top tier competitive game: rank mode, casual matches, tournaments, tons of customization option for your cars, and regular events. It also cross-platform, so the player base is very active no matter what platform you're playing on. Popularity wise, the game is still huge even after all those years. It has a massive player base and a strong esports scene. And Rocket League used to be a paid title on Steam, but now it's only available on Epic Games Store. And compared to any other sports games like FIFA or 2K, Rocket League is much better in my opinion. Those games release every year for full price and packed with tons of microtransactions, while the Rocket Leagues give you unique, highly competitive experience for completely free. Moving on at number 2, we gotta talk about Path of Exile and also a little bit about Path of Exile 2. And these are basically what happened when a free game goes all in and ends up competing with the biggest paid RPG out there. So if you ever played something like Diablo, this is like the same genre but way more deeper. Alright, gameplay wise, it's all about building your character exactly how you want. You got this massive skill tree, tons of abilities, insane loot drops, and endless way to customize your build. The combat is pretty fast and satisfying and can get ridiculously complex the deeper you go. And with Path of Exile 2 improving on animation, combat feel, and the overall presentation, it looks even close to a full AAA experience. Right now, Path of Exile 2 is on paid early access. Once the game fully released on Steam, it most likely going to be free to play, just like the original Path of Exile. Popularity wise, the game is still very huge. I'm talking about the original Path of Exile, which had a very strong player base for years, and the monetization of course very fair. The game is completely free to play and most purchases are for the cosmetics and stash tabs. There are no pay to win. You can compete and progress without spending money. And compared to its paid counterpart like the games like Diablo, and it costs a full price and still has battle passes and microtransaction, while this game gives you much more depth, much more content, and much more freedom without any additional cost. Alright, moving on at top spot, we got the finals. And finals being the number one just makes sense because this is one of those rare free-to-play games that genuinely feels like a full AAA release, and in some way, it actually does things better than most paid shooters right now. Gameplay-wise, this is where the finals really stand out on the first-person shooter market. It is a team-based shooter, but the big twist is that the fully destructible environment. You can literally blow the walls up, collapse buildings, create your own path, and completely change how the map plays during the game. On top of that, we got different classes, gadgets, incredibly smooth fast-paced gunplay, and the game just hit different. And I don't think any other first-person shooter on the market does destruction better than Finals at the moment. Overall, the game is super polished, got multiple game modes for both casual and competitive play, solid progression, unique loadouts, and the game has its own style of presentation which makes things feel more intense and fun. Popularity-wise, the game actually blew up at launch with a massive concurrent play count, but nowadays it's kind of getting to a much more steady rhythm. Still has a pretty strong player base on both PC and consoles. The monetization also done right. It's one of the best examples. It's purely cosmetics, weapon skins, character skins, battle passes, visual stuff. Nothing give you any real advantages in matches. And compared to any other paid shooters like Call of Duty or even recent Battlefield games, Finals gives you something fresh, something innovative, and a highly competitive experience for completely free. Well, there you have it guys. These are 10 of the best free-to-play games that are actually better than some of the paid ones out there. And the best part, you can jump into all of these games right now without spending anything. So if you have been sleeping on free games, this is your sign to try them out. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment down below. It really helps out the channel, and subscribe for more free-to-play game coverage like this. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.